You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 392, Regulating Your Nervous System with Michelle Grosser. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate productivity to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm looking forward to this conversation because you get to meet our guest, Michelle Grosser. Michelle is the go-to nervous system strategist. She's a podcast host and former trial attorney who guides ambitious high achievers out of burnout and into sustainable success. After burning out in her own high-pressure career, Michelle discovered the missing piece, nervous system regulation. Now she helps leaders identify the subconscious patterns driving their stress, rewire their nervous system for resilience, and finally feel grounded in the life they've worked so hard to build. Through her top-ranked podcast, Alive and Well, her popular personality pattern quiz, and her transformational group programs, Michelle offers a science-backed, somatically grounded, and spiritually integrated approach to leadership and well-being. Before we dive into this conversation, I want to make sure that you have taken me up on my offer to take my free Next Level Business Owner quiz. In 3 short minutes, you can find out what's most holding you back from taking your business to the next level. You can uncover what those challenges, hurdles, blocks are in your business so that they can be addressed. And once you uncover what is most holding you back to get to that next level, you'll receive a curated playlist of specific episodes that address those challenges. And in those episodes, they will be actionable strategies you can implement and see results immediately. So head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz. And now let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Welcome to the show, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm so good. I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We did just a little tech overhaul. I'm surprised my hair's not sticking up over my head. I was just saying we're both longtime podcasters and you never know what can happen when you get ready to hit record. So, and all knowing that we're going to have this conversation around calming our nervous system, taking the breath, all of those good things. So it's a great conversation to have after that really kind of hard start to our interview today. I think people like to hear the behind the scenes a little bit. You're like, and you hit record and everything's perfect. Not always. All right, Michelle. So share with us a little bit about what we did not hear in your bio. Why are we getting to talk to you about the nervous system? I mean, were you a young child and you're like, when I grow up, I want to talk about the nervous system and stress. So something had to have happened. There's a good story there.
Yeah. So yeah, there is. I mean, for the better part of the last, 15 years now, I've actually been a trial attorney. Had my own law practice since 2014. All that entails. You guys own small businesses. You know what that brings with it. And then I think so many, what I thought were parts of my personality, but really, as I've learned about my nervous system, I'm realizing we're coping mechanisms for so many different things. Being the overachiever, type A, super productive, doing all the things for all the people, just running in that energy for so long. I think I probably had signs and symptoms, certainly of a dysregulated nervous system, but also of burnout for so long, right? And then come 2017, I had my first child. Thought I was ready, had a nursery set up, was woefully unprepared for what that would look like in trying to run a business and also be a mom. I thought I would take a few weeks off. The law firm doesn't run if I'm not there. So I went back to the office after just a few weeks. I was like, she was napping next to me while I'm in hearings. I'm taking depositions. I'm like rocking her little thing next to me. And then I got pregnant again. So I had two kids, my daughters back to back. They're 16 months apart. What I'd done for so long was just push through, right? Like so many of us do when we're tired. Like it's just telling myself it's going to slow down. This season's going to end. I'm going to have time to rest. And then lo and behold, it doesn't.
The lies we tell ourselves.
The lies we tell ourselves, and that we're just fed, right? It's like we pick this up from somewhere, and my body just tapped out. I was like, nope, we're shutting her down, and really entering into a deep state of burnout that frankly was scary. And it was this moment where I'm like, whoa, something's got to change. And I was able to take some time. And I guess like any good lawyer, right? I started investigating. I'm like, but what's happening in my body? What caused this? Why do other people seem to be able to perform at such a high level and my body's shut me down, or I'm showing up in all these different ways that show dysregulation? And that led me down the trail of learning about the nervous system. And as I started to learn about my nervous system and how to regulate my nervous system, all the symptoms I was experiencing started to fade. And then I just got so passionate about it. I'm like, why does everyone needs to know this? This is like a fundamental skill we should know before we go to business school, like anything. So long story short, I've been kind of doing both, running the law firm and a coaching practice around regulating the nervous system. And about 4 or 5 months ago, I finally shut my law firm down altogether, and I'm doing this full time now.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So usually that is the kind of beginning of the story is like something really bad happened. I became passionate because I found the solution. And I hear that the hope is that they didn't need to do as much research as you did to find the solution.
Yep.
And you want to be that voice. So if you would just share with us maybe what some of your symptoms were, or if you want to just generally share what symptoms look like when someone's nervous system is deregulated. So if we have a listener, they're like, I didn't even know that there was a title, a word, an experience for what I experienced.
Yeah, because so much of it is so common, right? And it's so common that we've come to think of it as normal, but it's not actually normal. Like you're saying, it's a symptom of something deeper, our nervous system being dysregulated. So there's mental and emotional symptoms, and then there's also physical symptoms. So for me, some of the mental and emotional symptoms, chronic fatigue, tiredness, like the kind that a 3-day weekend or a nap just doesn't fix, right? You can sleep 8 hours and you still wake up just feeling the battery's drained and you're tired. The tired but wired feeling. So like that feeling when you're like bone tired, but you lay down to rest or sleep and it's just like still this energy coursing through you, right? The wheels are turning. You're thinking about everything that you have to do. Anxiety, certainly, burnout, brain fog. So we hear a lot about, frustration when we're lacking clarity. We sit down to work, but we just feel overwhelmed, or we just feel like we can't focus. Those are signs of a nervous system and dysregulation. Having a hard time making decisions, people pleasing, perfectionism, having to know everything, chronic busyness. Those are all signs of a nervous system that's dysregulated. And then on the physical side, this stuff doesn't just happen in our minds. There's actually a whole sequence of things that happen in our body when our nervous system is in one of these dysregulated states. And that affects all of our other systems. Our nervous system is like our command center in our body. So it might show up like chronic muscle tension, aches and pains, might show up like clenching your jaw, right? Or even those of you listening right now, if your tongue is pressed to the roof of your mouth, that's a sign of you're holding tension in your body. It can show up like chronic gut issues, GI issues, migraines, headaches, even a lot of autoimmune or most autoimmune conditions are actually rooted in a nervous system that's dysregulated or been under chronic stress. So it can show up in so many different ways.
Yeah. So my experience with this was actually having chronic stress physically.
Okay.
And not realizing that it had the same impact as if you were running a stressful life. I had a whole journey with healing my hormones and HPA axis and my gut. All
Yes.
three needed it. And I was working with coaches and experts and professionals, and they would say, "You're so stressed." I'm like, "You don't understand. I literally live the most stressless life. I purposely have created out of, a response from my childhood, a non-stressful life in my relationships and my schedule, just the way that we move in my family and my home. You don't know what you're talking about." It
Wow.
took person after person to explain to me that, you know, chronic gut issues, chronic allergies, chronic sinus infections were stressors on my body, and that I needed to regulate my nervous system and to heal from the inside out.
Yeah.
So it's not the same, but I had to learn it the opposite way of like, maybe it didn't come from the environment, but why am I experiencing many of the same symptoms you just shared now?
Yeah. Well, it's a difference between a stressor and then the stress on our body, right? It sounds like you didn't have a lot of what we would think of as traditional stressors, right? Really stressful job, a really stressful relationship, a really like bank account, like all the things. Yet there was stress on your body that was having an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very, very curious about this. I did not expect you to say things like perfectionism
Hmm.
or like, why would our personality and how we show up of people pleasing, perfectionism, having to have the answers to all the things, how is that connected to dysregulation?
Okay. So our nervous system, all of us, has one primary function, goal, priority always, and it will trump everything else without us even realizing it. And that's our safety. So
Mm.
our nervous system is constantly scanning without us even realizing it, whether we're safe, whether there's a threat, whether we might be embarrassed or abandoned or cast out, or like all of these different things that don't feel safe to us subconsciously, right? And we started to feel some of those things probably fairly early on in life, right? Even when we were babies or toddlers or dropping off at kindergarten for the first time or going through school, like our nervous system was already gathering information and then trying to do things to keep us safe. That's what it always comes down to. So there's safety on one hand. And then on the other hand, we all have this desire to be loved, accepted, approved of. And ultimately that comes back to safety, right? If you even think like through evolution, safety in numbers, being part of a group. When either of those two is lacking, and again, not necessarily that we're like aware of it, but just our subconscious, our nervous system perceives, man, is there possibly some threat to me being safe, right? Is there a financial threat? Is there a health threat? Is there a relational threat? Or is there some possibility that love and acceptance and approval might be withdrawn and I'll be embarrassed or abandoned or rejected or cast out or what have you? Subconsciously, the response to that from our nervous system is control. So if safety is lacking or love and acceptance and approval is lacking without us even realizing it, our body sends us into the state of trying to control things. And that's what people pleasing is, right? If I just
Yeah,
make sure you're okay, I can control that you're happy, I'm going to be safe, loved, and
right.
approved
I
of.
can control your
If I
happy.
think, yeah, if I
Yeah,
try to, right? That's the like
exactly.
this, yeah. And
Uh-huh.
the same thing with perfectionism. If I can control and make it good enough, then you're going to like me and keep me around and be proud of me and affirm me and all of these, things.
I mean, you just described every trigger a small business.
Yes.
Financial stressors, team stressors, making our team happy, making our clients happy. The safety, like nobody got into entrepreneurship and being a business owner because it was the safe, comfortable route. And
No.
so you literally just named like every single trigger as possible. So I'm curious about this.
Yeah.
When you had mentioned this in your own journey of why do some people respond in a certain way and others don't? Because it's
Yeah.
not true that everyone that has safety concerns in their business, whether it's financial or their team, like somebody quitting, like that's a big one, right? Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my business if so-and-so quits or they're not there?
Yeah.
Well, what is the difference? And I mean, I'm just going to throw out my guess because I do not know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Is it around the thoughts that you have around the situations that are happening? Because it's how you're processing and interpreting what's going on. Or is it something completely different? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up. And this is one of my favorite things to teach on because it's a misconception. I think the coaching world, the business strategists, the productivity experts, everyone out there is telling you like mindset, get organized, affirmations, discipline, willpower, all of these systems, structures, all these things. Are those good and important? Yes. And when we learn about the nervous system and study it, what we see is that only 20% of the nerves or the messaging being sent in our body are what we call top-down processing. So only 20% of everything going on in your system, ultimately asking like, are we safe or not, starts in our brain and is sending messages down to our body. So if we're focused just on mindset, right, how we see things, our paradigms, all these different things, helpful, but ultimately it's like a 4-to-1 tug of war. If our body is not felt sense of safety, if our body doesn't feel safe, 80% of the messaging going on in our body is telling our brain, brace, something bad's going to happen, panic, go into survival mode, right? Fix the finances, hire this person, for all of this stuff. And our mindset's not really enough to overcome that. It's that 80-20 kind of split. So it's important, but we really have to get our body on board. And our body does not speak a verbal language. So maybe you guys can relate to this listening, or even you, Amber, like, have you ever felt nervous about something or like worried about something, or you can feel it in your body, like you have to publicly speak and your heart's kind of racing and your throat feels kind of dry. And someone comes along and they're like, it's not that big of a deal. Just relax. Right? Or you tell yourself, like, I'm prepared, calm down. Why do I feel like this? That's not particularly helpful or effective because that's top down. Our body is still sending messages that this isn't safe, right? So our body is tense. We tense when we're bracing for something. We tense when we're about to run or fight. So that's telling our brain we're not safe. Our heart's racing. We're going to run. We're going to escape something, right? We're not safe. Our breathing is fast and shallow. We're running again. We're fighting. We're not safe. We're sending all of these messages to our brain and our brain can't override it. So we have to communicate to our body that this is okay. We're actually not facing some existential threat to our body or our safety. It's just an email or a client or, the budget or an employee that left or what have you. And we have to communicate safety to our body in the way our body understands. And our body understands movement, breath, sound, touch, temperature changes, connecting with other people that feel safe, social engagement. Those are the communication channels or the gateways of the body and the nervous system. So yes, we have to be mindful of our mindset. It's important. And we first have to get our body on board. And when our body leads, our mind will follow. So I think that's number one. And then just to kind of briefly touch on what you mentioned about like looking at someone else and being like, man, why can they seem to handle so much? And it's really hard for me. That's a matter of our window of tolerance, the bandwidth of our nervous system, frankly, to handle life, business, stress, entrepreneurship, all the things without it sending us beyond the edge or the top or the bottom of our bandwidth, our window of tolerance into a stress response. So how much life can I handle before my body's like, whoa, sending you into fight or flight, right? Or how much life can I handle before my body's like, nope, overwhelmed. We're shutting her down. You're going into a freeze response. You're going to be procrastinating for the next 2 weeks because this is too stressful, right? And we're not going to be able to make any progress. So I think learning how to expand our bandwidth and then having tools, day-to-day tools, in the moment tools to help show our body, we're actually good, right? We're safe here. Let's regulate and then let's make the decision, right? Let's regulate and then let's look at the numbers. Let's regulate and then let's talk to the team. That's such a different way. And our window of tolerance is changing minute to minute, right? There are days.
Okay. So I was like, hold on, is this something like you're lifting weights, you get stronger, and so like over time it's like been up, or you really have to observe what your current window is?
Both, right? And what kinds of things shrink your window and what kinds of things expand your window. Because you've probably had days where like from the moment you get to the office until you go home, everything goes wrong. And then you get to the end of the day and you're like, wow, I handled that really well today. Like I'm proud of the conversations that I had and how I stayed grounded and how I led really well and what have you. And then there are other days where your window of tolerance is so narrow that it just takes like, I don't know, one person to cut you off in traffic and you're just kind of derailed before you even get to work, right? So it's really like, yes, an awareness of like, okay, what does my bandwidth feel like today? But then what are the things that shrink my bandwidth and what are the things that expand my bandwidth?
Okay. So I would also like to just back up because you said so many great things for all the ways that the body receives safety messages.
Yeah.
Can you go through them again slowly and then give like one or two examples of how that might look or like someone would experience talking to their body in that language?
100%. Okay. Let's start with breath. So breath is one of the most powerful ways or effective and efficient ways that we can shift the states of our nervous system. So if you find yourself starting to feel kind of activated, so maybe you're feeling anxious about something or worried about something, or you're like frustrated with someone or something, angry, or even just waking up feeling like irritated or edgy, what have you, your breath can help you shift out of that state of fight or flight, which is what you're in, and come back to baseline stress level. So there's so many different breathing techniques out there, but my favorite one to use and to teach, because one, it's the most effective, and two, it's the fastest, and three, you can use it anywhere. It's called a physiological sigh. And I'll do it, I'll like explain it and do it once, and then maybe we can do it 2 times together. But this is how it works. You just breathe in through your nose until it feels like your lungs are full of air. And then at the top, you take in one more quick breath through your nose and then out through your mouth as if you were blowing through a straw. Really long, extended, slow exhale. And just 2 or 3 rounds of that, so we're talking 15 seconds, 20 seconds, is enough to shift the state of most people's nervous systems. And they'll feel like, oh, the shoulders drop and just the release. And you can do that, you know, in the middle of a meeting. You can do it in traffic. You can do it anywhere. But let's try it together. So in through your nose.
Well, I want to invite our listeners. You're driving, running, you're like, whatever you're doing right now, let's all do it together.
Yeah, let's all do it together.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. In through your nose. And at the top, one more quick inhale, and then out through your mouth. And let your shoulders drop. Yeah, let everything soften. Let's do it one more time. In through your nose. Quick one at the top, and out through your mouth. Yeah. And the more frequently you do that and like not and use that tool, I guess, the more efficient your body will transition out of fight or flight, because it's like, oh, we know this. This means that we're safe, right? And then your body will shift. So your breath is one of the most powerful ones. Movement. There's just no way around it. I wish there was, but moving, or I don't even wish there was. I love to move my body, but moving our bodies is one of the fastest ways to regulate also, in addition to our breath, because, I mean, if you think about even the term fight or flight, when we're in that state, every cell in our body is primed for movement, right? Every cell in our body, when we're activated, wants to run or it wants to fight. But what do most of us do, right? We're in that state and we're like at the desk all day, right? We're sitting, we're at a computer, we're going from our car to our office, and we're kind of suppressing that natural urge or impulse in our body to move in order to stay safe. So when you're feeling that way, you don't need to do even a workout to really feel the effects. Moving your body with exercise is awesome. But in the moment, my favorite movement-based tool to regulate my nervous system is shaking. And yeah, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. But sometimes if I have time or space or I'm by myself, like I'll even just put on one of my favorite songs, and man, like 60, 90 seconds of shaking releases so much stored energy, right? That activating energy, and helps my body to be like, okay, we paid attention to the fight or flight response. We moved our body, and now we can come back down to baseline stress level. And if you can't play music or you're somewhere else, like it's just shaking your body. Stand up, shake out your arms, shake your hands, right? Shake your whole body, shake out your legs, breathe while you're doing that. Again, it only takes 90 seconds, 60, 90 seconds for your body to kind of ride that wave and shift states. And that can be really effective also.
That seems like great things you can do right at your desk. I mean, maybe shake it in the office. You just make it part of like the company culture is like
Love that.
anyone can get up and shake if they need to. I
Yes.
I have my own office. I work from home and I do things between coaching sessions.
So
You
good.
know, I have little weights, I have a treadmill, I have a yoga mat. Like I just kind of shake it up of like, well, maybe I just need a stretch. Maybe I just need to get on the floor for 5 minutes between a
Yeah.
session to get, movement, because it is not only hard on the body, but as you said, it allows me to focus and be present with my clients as I wish to be when I do those little things between or
That's
throughout the
so
day.
good. Yep. Yeah. And kind of what we were talking about the body really being the one that's leading and sending the messages. We don't even realize it, but we can be in a coaching session or in a meeting and like our body's tensing up, right?
Mm,
Like we just like, and we don't notice. So I love just even getting like simple stretching or yoga between coaching sessions. As you soften your body, that's signaling to your brain, hey, we're good, we're safe, everything's good. And then that actually allows the part of your brain that you want access to operate at your highest level to come back online. Because when we're in fight or flight or when we're in a freeze response, that part of our brain actually shuts down. So it's so good that you're like including that as part of
yeah.
your coaching. It's awesome.
Yeah, just part of taking care of my own routine to make sure because, if you're coaching throughout the day, I could see a difference in the afternoon if I didn't, walk away. And so I had these guardrails, right? Like I take an hour lunch. I work from home. Like it takes me
Yeah.
5 minutes to eat. It's not about eating. It's about
Yeah.
like stepping away, moving my body, taking that mental break. And so I'm only seeing my own truth, but like whatever your work is, whoever's listening is, what are some of these guardrails or things that you can include to ensure that you are, showing up your best throughout the day? Because I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. That's all our businesses need from us to just show up our best. And it looks different every day. But like that's the goal is to show up our best.
That's so wise and so good. And I do the same thing. And on the days where I'm like, I don't have time to do this today, those are the days where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the day you actually need this so much more, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I know we didn't get to hit on all of them, but before we are wrapping up our conversation, I did want to just transition. Maybe I think you have a free giveaway that you're doing at the end of this session. And so maybe some of those conversations that are, examples are in there, I'm guessing. But I do want to make sure that we can talk about that if our nervous system is deregulated, one of the things that you said was that we are prioritizing safety. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to have that conversation in context of, if we can't be strategic, we're not being proactive, that we're always on guard, being reactive, and how that might affect our businesses if we're not prioritizing our own bodies and our own nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the truth is that it has much more of an impact than we realize. And it's because so much of it is just running under the surface of our conscious awareness, right? It's like we're not even really aware of what's going on. It's just like, this is how I show up and what happens in my day to day. It comes back to what we were talking about with our body and our nervous system always prioritizing safety and survival. So when we are faced with something that feels stressful or overwhelming or threatening, without us consciously aware of it, our nervous system will send us into a stress response. So that's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is like that people pleasing kind of stress response.
I've never
Yeah.
heard that before. Okay.
Yeah. And we don't get to choose this, right? Our nervous system has been gathering data for our entire life, and it can assess the situation, and it knows us, and it knows what gives us the best chance of staying safe. So through childhood, if people pleasing kept everyone happy and made us feel safe, that's going to be our go-to stress response. If, fighting kept us safe, then we might get, snappy with the people in the office or pick up the phone and give someone a piece of our mind or write that email. And that's just like what comes up without us really being aware of what's going on. So let's talk about kind of what happens in our brain. So our prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that's responsible for our executive function. When we show up as like powerhouse business owners, that's the part of our brain that we're operating or that we have access to, right? That allows us our highest levels of communication. That allows us to have empathy and compassion. That allows us to see things from different perspectives. That allows us to be creative and problem solving. That allows, like, all of these different things that we need as business owners come from that part of our brain. Awesome. And that part of our brain, relatively speaking, is quite slow. It has to take in information, process it, right? We maybe weigh pros and cons. We have to build these skills over time, and then we can use them, and it's great. But it's relatively slow. We touch a hot pan, right? We don't sit there and be like, oh, I wonder if it would be a good idea for me to. No, we just pull our hand away because that part of our brain gets bypassed when we're under stress because it's too slow. So if we're under stress, that part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, literally shuts down. It goes offline. We don't have access to it because our brain's like, you're too slow. There's stress. I got to respond immediately from this place of like reaction instead of response. Right. So when we're feeling stressed for whatever reason in our business or our home life or what have you, that part's shut down. It can be really frustrating, but the part that takes over is that survival brain. And that's the part that can feel, keep us stuck in scarcity mindset for time, right? Resources, money. That's the part of our brain that can like see everything as a threat. So we, instead of giving people the benefit of the doubt, we feel like they're out to get us. It keeps us playing really small and safe, right? So we don't take healthy risks and we don't feel like we can try new things. We're just staying in our lane because we're scared, frankly. That's the part of our brain that feels like we know what's going on and no one else does. So it's really hard to like get outside information. It's just a survival mode. And when we're there without really realizing what's happening, that has as you can imagine, right, a huge impact on how we lead and run our businesses.
So when you're talking about this window, does that mean when you're fluctuating between your survival and maybe more strategic and using your frontal cortex? Is that the window that you're talking about?
So that's exactly what I'm talking about.
So then you can experience staying in one for a day, a week, a month, or you can go from like minute to minute, situation by situation. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. So if your window of tolerance is really wide that's when you're regulated, right? I can handle so much right now because I'm like so well resourced. My bandwidth is really wide. Yeah. I'm staying in that part of my brain, that prefrontal cortex, and I'm operating from there. And then on days, and the things that shift our bandwidth, it's the basics, right? I don't sleep well. I'm not nourishing my body. I'm not hydrating my body. I'm not moving. I'm not dealing with stress well. I'm not, processing and releasing my emotions in a good way. My boundaries are not being expressed and enforced. My coping mechanisms aren't great for stress, right? I can't wait till 5 to have that glass of wine. Whatever it is, that bandwidth is shrinking. And then whatever we experience, our body's like, we can't do this, right? We're tapped out already. Bam, it sends us into a stress response. Yep.
Okay, incredible. I have a question about habits. So yes. When you are in a constant state of deregulation and stress, are you also finding that you've now created habits of how you handle situations or how you navigate your day that you're also having to deal with when you want to transition to more safe and executive functioning thinking?
Yeah. The patterns, the habits, right? They're patterns. They run so deep. And some of them further dysregulation, right? Skipping breakfast in the morning, caffeine before having anything in your stomach. All these checking your phone first thing in the morning. These are habits or patterns that we have that definitely cause dysregulation. And then on the flip side, when we feel dysregulated, it's really hard then to have the willpower or the consistency or the discipline to show up in our daily habits that we know expand our bandwidth because we only have the capacity for the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. Just giving some back examples, again, of my own experience, one of the first things they had me do was eat within 30 minutes of waking up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not hungry. They're like, it's not about being hungry. It's about safety. Your body needs to know you're safe.
That's right.
I would feel good. I'd say, oh my gosh, no, I feel great. I can go till like noon or 1 and then I'll eat well, I had built up these bad habits. And so it was triggering, or it was signaling rather, to my body it was not safe. It didn't know when it was going to eat. And
That's
I'm like,
right.
it knows when I'm going to eat. We're going to eat at lunch. Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm like the worst coaching client, right? I'm like, no. Like, I don't get this. But I say worst, meaning I need to know the why. I need to understand the
Same.
science. I am so intrigued
Yeah.
in everything you're saying. Because when someone can connect these dots like this and it makes sense, I'm not the person that's going to say, you're going to say, okay, hey, I'm your coach, so go eat breakfast. I'm like, okay, no. I need to know why. I need to understand. And
Same.
when I started understanding why all of these little things mattered, and
Yeah.
I was chuckling, I don't know if I caught externally, but when you said caffeine before eating, I'm like, doesn't everybody start with coffee before they eat? And that was it. They were like, no, okay, we're not saying you can't have coffee. We're not saying you can't have, your routine of getting up. You have to put food in your stomach. And then we just kept adding on top of that.
Beautiful.
And also things like, what kind of exercise was I doing?
Yes.
During this time, exercise, even though we think it's good for us, was signaling that it wasn't safe, right? It was stressing my body. And so really working on all of these things. Now, you named a lot. I did not work on all of those. I don't know that everybody does. Do we need to work on all those? Like you gave a really extensive list of all these things that are not helpful to our window.
Yeah.
Do we have more tolerance for those things at certain times? And so we don't need to be, I just want to hear, we don't need to be perfect with all these things.
No.
Show up,
And I
right?
think if our personality is to try to like do it all, right? Or like be so rigid in it, that
Now,
also it comes from a place of dysregulation, and it furthers dysregulation because then we're like, like I didn't do everything perfect in my 20-step morning routine, which, was never going to happen anyway.
I wanted to say that too.
Yeah. So I guess two things, if I may.
Yeah.
I have 3 things that I teach in my programs and that I try to do every day that makes such a difference so that I have a greater bandwidth for when I don't do all those little things perfectly. Okay. And then I think and this is probably where I should start. It's really a practice of checking in with your body. There are mornings I wake up and I feel really grounded and well rested and my day's planned. And I'm like, I can have coffee first thing in the morning today and I'm okay. There are other days I didn't sleep well. My kids are sick or in my bed or what have you. And like, I'm stressed about something and I wake up and I already, where I am in my cycle in the month, right? I wake up and my like anxiety is already kind of running. I'll have an herbal tea and I might have a cup of coffee at 10 if I'm feeling a little more grounded. But if not, I'm like, I just don't have the bandwidth for caffeine today. And I just will skip it because I know on that day, my body doesn't have the bandwidth. So the 3 things that I try to do every day, movement, like you said, not, intense exercise, but sometimes it's like during that hour lunch break, just going on a walk around my block, right? So moving my body every day, if it's stretching, Pilates, yoga, what have you, stillness. And that's probably the biggest one. We have to teach, especially as, entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who are really good at doing things and being busy. It's really hard for our bodies to just switch gears from like go mode to like rest mode. And for so many of us, that doesn't feel safe subconsciously, right? We try to slow down and it's like like I was saying before, the wheels are still turning and we're thinking about the to-do list and everything we have to get done. And if I rest, I'm going to be behind tomorrow. So when we intentionally schedule in moments of stillness throughout the day, and I'm not talking about like a meditation practice, I'm talking about like, can you drive to the office in silence without the podcast playing or the radio or the audio book, right? Can you like go on the walk without your earbuds and just like, because we're constantly stimulated by information and requests and lights and sounds and noise all day long. Our brain is not wired for that or created for that. It needs stillness in order to like categorize things and heal and clean itself, right? And like process our memories and increase our focus and our creativity. And we just aren't in a practice of giving it that stillness. So that's the second thing.
That's the one that you were speaking to me. I'm going to take away and take action on that one. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. And then the last one is play. And I really, by that, just mean like, can we, and not an everyday, like it doesn't have to be this religious thing, but like, do I have things that I enjoy doing throughout the day that aren't for work or for my kids or for my family or for like there's no end that I'm seeking. It's just like I bake because I enjoy baking, or I go skateboarding because I enjoy it, or I like go hiking or play the saxophone or shoot hoops in the backyard or whatever because I enjoy it. And being in that state of play, we underestimate it, but it's actually really regulating for our nervous system, and it expands our capacity, expands our bandwidth more than most other things we could try to do in like that day to day, all the things.
Yeah, and the work that I do, one of the things that we talk about first on is how do we create time and space for hobbies? Because that's one of the things that gets really pushed out at the sake of being successful or having a business that has literally taken over every area of our lives is not only are we not taking breaks or, eating lunch or things, but sometimes it's like, well, how can we get that dance class back in? Or how can we get that yoga class back in?
Yes.
And that becomes an actual measurable goal in the work that I do with my clients to create a business that's not like stifling all of those areas of our who we are and of our lives.
Good. So good. And it's not superfluous, right? I think a lot of times like that's the last thing we're like, well, I don't have time, or when I have time for that.
Well, that never happens.
I know, I always tell my clients, I'm like, try me. I'm like, try it for this month, prioritizing play, and watch how much more money you make. Watch how much more centered and grounded you feel, how much more productive you are. It's huge. I love that you teach that. It's awesome.
Yes. All right. Excellent. So I want our listeners to hear about how they can connect with you, tell them about your podcast. And I think you have a freebie, and we'll be sure to share the link out in the show notes. And I will say it again in the outro. But go ahead and tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you guys already listen to podcasts, the best way to connect with me is through my podcast. It's called Alive and Well, and it's nervous system strategies and daily habits for regulating our nervous system so we can show up in all these amazing ways we talked about today. So the podcast is Alive and Well. You can find me on Instagram at It's Michelle Grosser. And then the resource that I'd love to share with you guys today is a nervous system reset guide. So within there, there's a little more information, training on the nervous system, but then I also have a part of it that has 3 different somatic, like body-based tools to help you regulate. And there's a link to a breathwork exercise in there. So that's a really good place to start if this is resonating today.
Excellent. We'll be sure to share the link so they can definitely grab that today. Thank you so much. I was actually personally looking forward to this conversation, and I think that it will hit home for a lot of our listeners. So thank you so much. And I am not glad that happened to you, but it seems like it was always meant to be. You are lit up. You are a professional in your expertise, and all of that came across in today's conversation. So thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness, my pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. And I sure hope you found my conversation with Michelle to be valuable, insightful, and most of all, encouraging you to make change where needed. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on my conversation with Michelle, do you need a change? Are you so stressed out that your nervous system is completely fried? Do you need to slow down so that you could speed up in the future? Do you need to prioritize your own health because how you show up in your business as a leader to the people that you love is the most important thing that we have to offer? If you've listened to the last few episodes of this podcast, you might see a little bit of a running theme. And I have to tell you, it was an accident. I first interviewed Jude Charles, and we ended up talking all about from burnout to boundaries. We talked about the energy of busy. We talked about wearing busy as a badge of honor. He also shared his story on how he physically could not move one day and knew that it was because he was pushing so hard in his business. Well, that conversation inspired me to do last week's episode, The Real Reason You're Always So Busy, where I think that this is probably going to be one of the most impactful, important conversations that I have on my podcast, was me pouring my heart out in that episode. So if you have not gone back and listened to it, please do so. And then we're bookending that conversation with today's conversation about regulating your nervous system. Because if you are to a point that you feel like the stress of running your business is having a physical impact, I want you to know that there is healing. There is a way forward. There is a way in which you change your business model and your business systems and the way that you do business. There is the mindset piece. There is the physical piece. And all of this comes back together so that you can show up your best and live a life and a business that you absolutely love. If you'd like support from a business coach who can help you navigate these changes in your business, navigate the mindset shifts, I would love to talk to you. If you would like to learn more about my coaching program, you can head on over to amberdelagarza.com/coaching. You can schedule a discovery call so that we can chat about what that relationship looks like, what partnering together could be, and if that's the next right step for you and your business. And if you are new here, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to not keep it a secret and share it with another business owner who you think would find it valuable. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.